other different types of dementia, and depending upon where the difficulties lie, that in the illness determines the course of treatment.
Yes, you can. All you have to do is want to do it.
Yes.
Want to be it.
When you set your mind to it, and this is who you are, and
the grown men. We have the youth that we need to mentor, and we need to inspire, and we need to motivate. But I know, as a recent conversation between you and I, that you're also in the business of motivating grown men. Through that, I'm supposed to see God in it at every turn. So me going to the Sea of Galilee was to remind me of that, to refresh myself of that. It is all under control, that He does have it. It's just as clear as that fresh water that I saw.
You're Our Unity, hosted by LaShawn Walker, Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. EST.
Welcome, everyone, to Your Our Unity, a show that wishes to spread a spirit of peace and love, one conversation at a time. We want to encourage you to check on your family and friends, especially during this time and this season. Make sure they're doing okay, that they are exactly where they want to be, enjoying their life. I mean, the weather is fluctuating, so we want to make sure that their moods aren't as well. And you also need to check on yourself, so please do so. I am your host, LaShawn Walker. I'd like to welcome you in. Please like, share, and follow. Let everyone know that we're on right now. It is going to be a packed show for you, my friends. It is the second day of May. Congratulations, we made it. I hope all is well. Please tell me, leave in the chat, what are you doing? How is everything going? How are you feeling? We are celebrating a few things this month, and one of them is mental health awareness. It is so important that we check on ourselves, our well-being, our health. Make sure that we're doing well. Make sure that we're happy and embracing each day. I mean, it's hard out there for a lot of people. I mean, this world is not really easy to live in, but it's time for us to take a little step back and realize that we need self-care. We need to maintain balance in our lives. So I hope that you guys are out there doing that. I hope that you started off this May, even though the weather is a little dicey. I hope that you're still bringing some sunshine into your life every day, waking up with expectation, waking up with the desire to tackle the day in the best way possible. And more importantly, sharing that light with others. As I said in the beginning, it's time for us to check up on those that we know and love. This time of year is hard for a lot of people, celebrating vast majority of things. And, we tend to let those things affect us, especially if they weren't so happy feelings or happy situations. So please look in on your family, look in on your friends. If you haven't spoken to them in a while, give them a call, take them out to brunch or dinner or something. Just text if you have to, but at least show up for them, and then take some time for yourself. So, we've been talking about celebrating all things for the last couple of months. The first beginning of this year, I've just been all about renewing and rebirth, and, just thinking about my past and thinking about how it has just made me this woman that I am before you today. I want to talk to you to another fascinating woman who is a mother, because Mother's Day is coming up in a few weeks. And I want to take this month for a couple of shows to celebrate and highlight these amazing mothers out there. So I want to talk to you about one today, who's Nijaah Howard, who is an amazing mother, a founder, an advocate, an author. She is all these things. And she's going to discuss with us about what it's like to raise strong young men. That is the title of the show today. And our guest, Nijaah Howard, born and raised in Queens, New York, is a mental health counselor and recipient of multiple community awards throughout New York City. She is also the publisher of Thoughts Action, the first multicultural uplifting magazine for men and women of color. She served as vice president of Parent Teacher Association and vice president of Youth Affairs National Action Network, West New York chapter, and chaplain under the Worldwide Association of Small Churches. Nijaah raised her son as a single parent, which broke her down. She spent over a decade in the New York City family court system fighting through narcissism, greed, hate, and depression. After changing her mindset, she persevered and founded Millennium Minds Incorporated, a nonprofit organization for youth that over time evolved into Young Men Strong LLC, a media consulting and mentoring program established to counteract America's crisis surrounding African American, Latino, and all males of color. Nijaah Howard is a visionary, relational expert, speaker, author with a universal personality who has worked tirelessly to improve the lives of thousands of youth in the Southeast Queens, New York area and the surrounding areas. She is here to talk about raising a strong Black man to be a true man. Please help me welcome my beautiful guest, Miss Nijaah Howard. How are you?
Oh, I am beautiful. Thank you so much, LaShawn, for having me on your show today. It is an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you so much for making time. I know you are so busy. You have so much going on. So it has been my pleasure to have you here, my friend. Finally, I wanted you here in the studio, but I know we both got things going on. You have actually another event after a mentoring program that you're hosting in a bit. So we don't want to hold you up, but I did want to talk to you about the amazing work that you're doing and also about how important it is as a mom, to raise and mentor and stand up for our young Black men. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So I want to dig right in because, like I said, our time is short and she's got so much to share. Tell us before I begin, I understand you're like me, a Queens queen, born and raised in Queens, New York. Tell us a little about that. What was your childhood like? Because I know you, like I as well, were raised in a two-family household.
Yeah.
Household.
Two-parent household. Yeah. My parents to this day are still happily married after like almost 40 years. And my mother and father were married. And one of the unique things about growing up is that a lot of people get surprised to hear, but I actually grew up with three dads. My mother was a single mom raising my sister and I, and each of us had our own fathers. The great part about our relationship, though, is that we knew our dads. We had a wonderful relationship with them. But my mother ended up marrying our stepfather, who we call our dad today because he stepped up to the plate and became like the man's man. And so our biological fathers were very engaged in our lives and very respectful of their union. But they didn't want to leave us. And so therefore, my sister and I grew up calling three men dad. So
Wow.
yeah.
I could imagine the love, and y'all were probably daddy's little girl to every last one of them, right?
We really was. And each of us my sister's father loved me as equally my father loved her. So and of course my mom's husband, who is our stepfather, he loved us equally as well. So I mean, I remember as a little girl, the three of them would be sitting watching a game, drinking beer together, and just having a good time. And so as a little girl seeing that visual, it was really a beautiful sight to see. Because there was no animosity, there was no, discontent or disrespect. It was all love and respect and civility.
I love that. That is beautiful. At that moment, I mean, were you seeing what you thought a man's role was in, family life and in a woman's life, being married to your mom as well as being a parent? Was that, obvious to you at that time, how important that role was?
Absolutely. I mean, my stepfather, who I call him my dad. I call it, I think it's a little bit disrespectful for me at this point, being that he's still alive and in my life, to even call him a stepfather, unless I call him a step up dad. But he has been an outstanding role model and has been the blueprint for what a man really is and should look like for me, and how I was able to you know, choose the men in my life, you know, whether it be in my professional life as terms of platonic friendships or even in my personal life as intimate partners.
Right.
But he really was that stepping stone to let me know what a man should look like. He has been an outstanding model in terms of treating my mother and my sister and I, like the young women that we were and the queens that we were in the house. He was just an excellent, excellent model for that. And I think that was really the blueprint of how I end up becoming so strong in raising my son
Right.
as a single mom. I
Right.
never went into this journey saying I can't. I went right into it saying I can.
Right.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, let me ask you, and if you want to share, I mean, a lot of women, they look for in their mates their fathers. You had three to choose from. How was that journey? Dating and you trying to find, that husband or that mate that you wanted to have children with and spend the rest of your life with. Was it easy? You kind of, meshing all of those beautiful character traits that your three fathers had into that one person, or were you finding it hard to kind of find that man to look up to that blueprint?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna keep it 100 because that's who I am. Finding someone who is as reputable as my dad might be the expectation may be a little bit too high,
Mhm.
and so with that, it has left me in a position where I found myself, you know, riding this solo train um, because that is part of the reason why I'm very adamant about educating and engaging and empowering our men today, because I feel like there are some many things that um, my dad brought to the table
Right.
that um, may be missing in a lot of our men today. So I'm very adamant about bringing that type of sexy back.
Yes, I love that. I love it. And we do. We need that. And not just for our young girls, for our adult women as well. I can't tell you how many of my friends, beautiful women, strong women, women who just have so much to offer and so much to give. And unfortunately, they're still single because of the pool of men, the availability of these men, and the mindset of a lot of these men that causes them to still remain single. It's really sad to me. So again, you're on this journey. I understand from reading your bio that you raised your son, you were a single mother. Now you have resolved to, this is what I'm going to be. Now you're fighting. I understand you were over a decade in and out of family court and dealing with so much. What was that like? And why did you have to go through all of that in the first place, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. No, I don't mind at all. I share pretty often. Yeah, I spent well over a decade in the New York State family court system. And, I just want to say that there's hope for our men. I don't want to make it seem as though, that there's such um, a pool of men that are just not showing up. But we do have to make improvements, and we have to acknowledge that work needs to be done.
Yes.
I also was involved with a partner who, my son's father, who at the time just didn't have a sense of self esteem or self love or integrity,
Right.
and not having that, he deflected a lot of blame, a lot of distrust, a lot of hate, and it poured out into our relationship and how he showed up in our lives.
Right.
And so we spent well over a decade. It was tumultuous. It was great agony, sleepless nights. And thank God for social media, because we have really grown to educate society on what abuse looks like.
Yes.
Whereas years ago, when I was going through it, people would say, "Oh, he's taken all this money out of their household, or he has verbally said some real nasty things, or maybe he has, left her abandoned to take care of the child by herself and rejected her. But these aren't abuse
Mhm.
unless she had a black eye, or a ring around her neck. So we have educated the world a lot on what abuse looks like. There's financial abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's mental abuse, there's verbal abuse, there's psychological abuse, and we have to acknowledge that and hold our men accountable. This man was on a mission to destroy. He was on a mission to steal, kill, and destroy, if you will. and but you know what? I'm going to tell you. Every time I went into the courtroom, I was not without my Bible,
Wow.
and people would say, there would be a space on my left hand side, and I left that space open. That was where I wanted Jesus to sit with me.
Yes.
Because as a single mom, I was really fighting not only my son's father, but I was fighting the courts
Yeah.
because he had a lot more money than I did. So
Mm.
he had power over me, if you will. He had the attorneys. And so he was able to shift and shape the whole story to make it look like I was this really bad, poor,
Right.
um, mother,
Right.
which was everything I was not. Gave him everything, but in all of that, I knew that I was worthy. I
Yeah.
knew that I was enough. I knew that our son deserved to have a happy, healthy lifestyle. And I wasn't going to allow my son's father negative beliefs in himself to override how we were going to show up and show out in this world.
Yes, I know that's right, my friend. I love that attitude. Did he grow up with his father? Did he know or understand what it was like to be this mate as well as a new dad? Because your son was young when you guys broke up and when you were going through all of this, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
Wow.
I'm very passionate about, I was very honest with my son early on about, I never lied to him, but I never ever talked bad about his father.
Yeah.
To this day, I still don't talk bad about his dad. Because to be honest with you, he's a man that I chose.
Yeah.
He is the person that I decided to lay down with, have a child, and raise this child together with.
Yes.
And so to this day, he has many pluses about him, which I absolutely love and adore still.
Yeah.
But then there's parts of him that I'm just very grateful that he decided to move on, and not crowd my ability to raise our son fully
Right.
in his excellence.
I get it. I get it. I totally get it. Well, I'm glad that, after the fight, it sounds like you've come to sort of like an amicable point in your relationship. Was he present in your son's life even after everything settled? He was still this father figure that your son needed?
It's funny because we weren't amicable. We didn't end in a peaceful way. I felt like in order to be intentional about my own personal peace, I had to remove myself from the situation, because it just wasn't. It wasn't positive for our son, let alone my peace. And being that I was the everything to our son, financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you name it. I could not allow negative to stay in my space.
Right.
So no, it did not end amicably. But yes, he was a part of my son's life, all of his life,
Right.
and that was a decision that both of them had to make.
Right.
And so I allowed that space. Never did I try to curtail it, or try to use my son as a pawn to keep him away from him. It was none of that, because I knew that this was a man that deserved his son. My son deserved his father. And I knew that when my son got old enough, he was going to be able to see his father for who he was by himself without any of my assistance.
Right.
So, we have to understand that, you know, um, in society right now, our young men are suffering and our adult men are suffering. And if we don't find the right tools to put in place to make sure that they are thriving, not just surviving, then it's going to be tumultuous for little girls and women for centuries to come.
Yeah.
So that's why I put myself in a position to not only observe boys and men
Mhm.
and study them, but also to support them in their mission, in their growth.
I love that. So you mentioned that you had to separate yourself from the negativity. It takes a lot sometimes for people to do that, especially when they're so deeply embedded in it and they have so much to lose, you know? But you separated yourself from the situation. You went, you got educated. I would understand, were out there determined to just change the whole way things were being run, not only in the court system, but also obviously in your son's life. So tell me a little about that journey. What did it take for you to separate from that situation so that you can embark on this new path? And when did you realize that you now had to really start being also that father figure to your son, or at least trying to teach what it was and what it's about being a man? You know what I
Right. Right. Well, excellent question. I mean, first of all, I had to, in order for me to even learn forgiveness and learn how to overcome the pain of the rejection and the abandonment and feeling like I wasn't enough, in order to even get past that, I had to stop expecting something from his father that I knew he didn't have to give. I think so many women, the reason why they stay stuck in these boxes of hate and bitterness and anger is because of the fact that they're still expecting something from this person, and you have to at some point realize that this person doesn't have anything to offer. And when you get to that point, then you realize that it starts and ends with you.
Yeah.
You have to take responsibility for how you're going to move this whole thing forward. When I realized that, I took total control and dominion over my life, and part of that is changing the way I thought.
Right.
And your thinking determines the quality of your life. And so if I was going to have the life of excellence that my son and I deserve, then I had to shift my way of thinking that his father was going to be someone that was going to help provide, be a part of that.
Yeah.
So that was really the strong point. There was, I had to take ownership, that I got to take control for me and my son.
Right. I love that. I love it. Once you took this ownership, I know you felt a tremendous amount of strength and power at that moment. What was your plans like in your mind after you got this strength, you got this acknowledgement that I've separated, for I no longer expect anything from this person. I just want to live the best life and have the best relationship I can with him for our child. Tell us a little about that. What was that feeling? And
Yeah.
your excitement of it all. Go ahead.
It is exciting. It is exciting. And, in the process of it, though, it was not exciting. Let me just say that. It was quite a battle up the hill. And I want to encourage single mothers out there and single full-time dads that, getting towards that level of success is not a fly by night. It took me about 7 years to really redefine who I was and to look at myself in the mirror and be able to love myself, edify myself. It took time. I always encourage my single parents, don't rush back into a relationship. Take time, get to know who you are, build a relationship with you and build a relationship with him, right? It's so important to get to know who you are before you jump into something else, not level-headed, not clear. And now you are adding old drama to new life, and that's not healthy. So for me, when I took that step, I made sure that I got myself the education that I needed. That's the first thing I always tell my parents, go back to school, because school is always the hindrance, right? It's always something we have to go back to because we end up having families before we complete our careers. So I always let
Wow.
my parents know, go back to school, get that certification, get that trade, that skill under your belt. I mean, thank God when I was raising our son, I was a full-time chef at Windows in the World at the World Trade Center for almost nearly 10 years. So I was good. I had a skill set and I had some education. I had graduated from New York Restaurant School from culinary arts and
Mhm.
restaurant management. So I was doing well, but at the same time, when everything had went down with the 9/11, um,
Right.
it was time to pivot my life
Mhm.
and start up and start over again.
Yes.
But you have a choice in life, and you can decide: do you want to live or do you want to die?
Yes.
And I had to make a decision. And if I'm going to look this little boy in the eyes, I need to live.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I get that. You needed that time, and I get that 7 years because you never stop growing, and things change, situations change, and you just have to evolve and you have to adapt with a lot of things. But it's great that you're willing to take on that new information, that education, get wisdom, get wise, so that you can not only just help your son, but help others along the way as well. So I understand during this journey, you have become, what is this phrase that you've coined, the self-proclaimed single mom coach? Tell us a little about that. Obviously, I know that this journey has made you this single mom coach, but tell us a little about what that means and how that phrase came about.
It's so funny. I said to myself, it just came to me one day. This is during COVID. And I realized that I had a lot of single parents I was coaching and helping them to build their self esteem, build their credibility, find their voice, really understand that they were enough in the process of parenting solo. And one day I just said, you know what? I don't want to be a life coach. I don't want to be uh, you know, um, you know, food coaches, so many different coaches out here. But I was like, you know what? I'm the single mom's coach, and that is nowhere else to be found. I mean, if you hear
Your own
anyone,
lane. I love it, girl.
I was like, listen, first of all, I'm a proud single parent, right? I am not that single parent um who who beats to the drum of society statistics such as, single mom, she must be in poverty, welfare, you know um
Never had a father.
never had a father,
Traumatic
uneducated.
issues. Exactly.
Right. And so I wanted to really give single parents, men, full-time single parents as well as men. I wanted to give single parents that sense of reinvigorated hope that they were enough,
Yeah.
because society will always knock you down, especially if you're a woman raising a black man or a brown son. Society will always let you know that, if he's successful, it was because of your fathers, it was because of everything else, the village, it was not you. And so when I wrote Raising John's Boy, which is the first book I wrote, so it's right here, and I hope that people
Yeah.
go out and get it. But when I wrote Raising John's Boy, I wrote that with the intent to help single parents realize that they are enough,
Yeah.
and to not fall victim to those antiquated stereotypes like only a man can raise a man, or women cannot raise men, or men cannot raise daughters. We have to get rid of those stereotypes that because you are of the opposite gender, you're not going to be successful in raising your child. That is completely false and inaccurate. And I believe that through my observation and through my studies with Black and brown boys and men,
Mhm.
I believe that because 86% of societies is raised by women, households are run by women, I do believe that if women believed that they weren't enough, then they're only going to transfer that same level of lack and incomplete and not enough belief into their sons. Hence the reason why so many of our young adult men today are
Mhm.
just not showing up,
No.
and so we have to take accountability as women, as moms, that when we're raising our sons, it is important that we breathe life into them, that
Yeah.
we breathe enough into them. And
Yeah.
not only that, but we have to show them that we are enough. When I was raising my son, not one time did I ever make him feel like I was missing something or I needed to have his dad there in order for it to successfully happen.
Right.
If we set out a goal, then I put a blueprint or a plan together to reach that goal.
Yeah.
And that wasn't because I didn't need a man. I want to correct that because I want to make sure single moms out there and women are not there going, yeah, because we don't need them. Yeah, no,
Exactly.
that's
That's not
completely
the point. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it.
completely.
Mhm.
It is not that at all because you absolutely, having two incomes and having a male partner there that is very supportive and very giving and very, just present and
Yeah.
showing up and being consistent in your life is very much a necessity. It's very much a blessing. But if you don't have that, you cannot take that as an excuse or a reason why your son cannot still be a full grown whole man, mentally, physically, spiritually, and psychologically and emotionally. And I think it's very important that single parents understand that you do not have to have the same gender in order to successfully raise your son or your daughter.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree to a certain degree. I always thought raising a boy and to do it without a male in the household. I mean, I did used to think that a woman really can't raise a well-rounded man. Why? Not just because of, the physical and the gender, all of that, but more so just because of the emotional connection and understanding of them and how they tick. We grew up in my generation anyway that a man was just there to protect, and that was it, to make sure that you had a stable household. You be happy that the man came home at night, but you weren't to be concerned about what he did between the time he was there and the time he returned. There was no real emotional connection with them. I found that as I was growing up, a lot of the older women were just happy to have a male in the household, and just to say that they had someone as a mate. With my brother, I'm learning now that my father raised us both very differently. He was teaching him things that I had no idea he was teaching them. And it was more so about how to be a husband and working hard and making sure you get a good job. But it was none of that nurturing. So I want to know from you, what do we, because I know, again, hard for single mothers, what do we as mothers, what can we offer our boys, especially our men right now, that they're not necessarily getting, especially the past generation of men didn't get, that we can hopefully give them now? Because I feel it is so incumbent on a lot of women today to raise these strong Black men, especially if we know now what they're lacking and what they need.
So let me just you said a mouthful there, but let me just try to
I
um
always do.
let me just streamline some of it. First, I want to change your language. The
Okay.
language, the language is not, it's not hard. Single mothers, women raising sons is not hard. It
Mm,
requires work,
okay.
and you got to put in the work. And
Yeah.
that goes for anything you do in life. If you want something to be successful, you got to put in the work.
Mm,
So, it's we can't you know devalue or reduce the quality of work that a woman does by letting her know she's not strong enough or she's not enough to do it because she's a woman.
mm,
We have to change that language. That is why I'm out here, right? My voice, I'm hoping, will eventually um, garner a horde of single women who are saying, yeah, I'm single and I'm a woman and I raised my son successfully.
right.
Now what?
Mm,
Right? Or I am a man, I am a dad, and I raise my daughters to be beautiful doctors and successful, productive members of society. And so we have to start changing the language. The reason why, um, society makes it seem as though it's difficult is because yes, if they're coming from, and remember, when statistics are done, they're only doing based off of the environment that they're looking at, and then they use that as a tool to kind of overgeneralize the entire population.
Mm,
It doesn't mean that some of the stats that are being told about single women raising sons is not true or inaccurate. That's not what I'm saying, but
right.
we have to tell the whole story, not just part of it. And so there are a lot of women out there like myself who were successful in raising their sons.
Mm,
And part of that is doing the work. That means that you say what you mean and you mean what you say.
right.
That means that you are intentional about certain things. You know, men bring a lot of great qualities to the light, to the household. They bring structure, they bring guidance, they bring a sense of security, stability. They bring a sense of closure and warmth. They bring all these great things to the table. But if they're not there, that means that that woman has to encompass all of that plus the nurturing part, and that right there just goes to show you how incredible a single woman is when she's raising her son into a man, because
Mm,
she's embodying all of the above,
yeah.
and holding it tight. So there are different levels of single moms. There are some single moms who are saying, hey, it is hard, and you know what, okay,
Yeah.
it's hard for you, and that is so real and so normal.
Mm,
And we can't act like it doesn't exist. It's not going to be an easy road. Life is not easy, but
yeah.
it doesn't mean that God didn't give you all the tools that you need. You just need to get in touch with the single moms coach and learn how to apply those tools, which ones to use, and how to navigate it so that you can raise your son to be the man that you yourself wish that you had.
Yes, yes, I agree. So you heard that, folks. Reach out to the single mom coach, and she can help you navigate those roads. Let me ask you, I mean, considering, we have a lot of young men and older men dealing with challenges right now, just from your perspective, and considering, mental health plays a huge part in a lot of these issues. What do you think were the problems that caused a lot of these young men not to be whole and to, just not be completely true men within themselves and not possessing the characteristics that would sort of, reveal that to everyone else? What do you think those things were? I, personally have a few ideas of what a couple of those things are, but from your perspective, what would you say?
Well, I mean, it's a few things, right? It's intergenerational. We have so many different things that have just been passed on. We have negativity, negative thoughts. I mean, it's just been passed on generation to generation, right? But we have to change it and break the chain. Like Tasha Cobb says, we got to break the chain, right? And when the way we do that is, we have to create safe space for our young and adult men to be able to open up and share, right, and allow them to really lead the conversation. And so, statistically wise, since 2014, 80% of suicides for Black men has increased. And a lot of that has been due to the firearms, right? Then we have suicide rates. We have suicide attempts for young Black men from 1991 all the way to 2017 to present has increased like 73%. So we're seeing such an incredulous rise in how our young and adult men are struggling with coping with society. And they're dealing with depression, they're dealing with PTSD, they're dealing with anxiety, right? And so, what I have found as a single mom, I realized when I was raising my son, one of the biggest challenges for me when I was having a challenge was finding a village of men that I felt I could trust, that I knew could offer my son more support than just my dad and my uncles and my cousins, but a village of male support that were ethical and professional and willing to take him out to different places and offer him some suggestions and some positive reinforcement. And so because that was something that was so scarce, I knew that when I was starting my businesses, I created Young Men Strong, because Young Men Strong is that village of ethical professional men that is providing a very strength based, positive environment for our younger men. So, who are growing up in single parent households. So, when I look at how the rooms week by week are filling up with more and more men, it just further lets me know that men are crying out for help. They're crying out for support.
Yes.
And we have to create space where they can feel free to say, I don't know, or I'm hurting, or can you help me? You know, if you can create space for them in that space, then they can go back home to their families, and show up in their full self, because they've been able to be healed and find some kind of resolution of a safe space where people are listening, people are attentive, and people are offering their support. And so that is what I do with Young Men Strong. And, you know, it's really about creating that environment where adult men and young men feel safe to not be the superheroes, who are able to, you know, do 5 backflips and do these unreasonable things that we expect from them. They're
Right.
human, and
Yeah.
they cry and
Yeah.
they bleed and they hurt.
Yeah.
And so we have to create space where we're just careful about how we interact with them, how we engage, and
Mhm.
how we provide services for them.
When did you find that to be so necessary? I knew there had to be like a turning point, because I know you knew mentorship was very important for a very long time. But when did you decide that it was really time to take action and not only build Millennium, what is it? Millennium, what was the
Minds.
name? Yes, and then obviously evolving into Strong Young Men, Young Strong. Yeah,
Young men strong.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I started Millennium Minds back in 1997, but that was at a time when people really were just not supportive. And you know, I've always been a visionary. You know, I tell people all the time, I knew I was something special when I was 5. I could read when I was 3. So I knew that there was something special. So by the time 1997 came, I was just a child, but I had already had this vision of what I'm doing today.
Mhm.
I had it then. And at that point, there was no real support. So it just wasn't. It just was no support at all. People had a lot of titles, but they didn't really have no power behind them to really help make things happen. So it took many, 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 many years. We're talking about over 20 years of working hard to get the organization to where it's at today. So let that be an inspiration to someone out there that, you know, because you come up with an idea of something, it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes you have to take your time and just allow God to do what he needs to do, to strengthen you and make you whole and make you figure it all out before you actually know how to run that organization. So so that is what I do today. And I'm sorry, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, no, actually you did. And real quick before, the time gets away from us, you also have a publication that you have, Thoughts Magazine. Tell us, and it's also related to Young Men Strong organization. Tell us a little about what that magazine is and who it speaks to.
Absolutely. So Thoughts Magazine is a quarterly publication. I always like to coin it as the first born male child of GQ and Essence. It's very classy, it's very sophisticated, and it really is about empowering our young and adult men of color and building empathy and compassion between the male and the female, and really trying to restore our nucleus family, and reduce the single parent household and divorce rate in the Black community and Black and Brown community. And so Thoughts Magazine is just what it is. It's thoughts. And I got a copy here. It's thoughts. And it's really about You know, it's very classy, very sophisticated, very clean. And the cool part is that it's double-sided.
Oh, nice.
It's double-sided, and this is really the first of its kind. There are no publications like this. Sorry, I don't want to, but I gotta call it what it is. When God pours something into your spirit and you do something incredible, you got to share it with the world. And
Yes.
so I'm very grateful for this publication, because it's really about not only honoring men of color and representing those scholars, but it's about thought in your thinking process. Because as we know, your thinking determines the quality of your life. It determines everything. And if you're thinking better, then you're going to live better. So Thoughts Magazine is a classy publication that's about empowering, educating, and uniting our brothers, and giving them a safe space to say, to write, to learn each other, and really go from those trials and tribulations to that triumph, or those struggles to that success, because our men are deserving of that environment.
No, they really, really are. And I love you know, the fact that you mentioned that, building these men is also very good for us young ladies out there, that we're going to be mates, wives, best friends, whatever you want to call it, with these men. And we want them to be whole. We want them to be happy. We want them to be confident in who they are. So I love that. Tell us real quick before you go, because time is definitely winding down. And I know you have another engagement. Tell us, what do you want for Young Men Strong? What do you want for our men out there? And what do you think we as women can do to help facilitate that?
Excellent. Well, listen, what do I want for Young Men Strong is I'm really reaching for it to be globally. I mean, even Thoughts Magazine is in 5 countries outside of the USA. We're reaching about 500 to 1,500 sold every quarter. So we're really doing exceptionally well. And I wanted to go global. I want Young Men Strong to have different branches. And I really want our women to be careful in their language and how they speak. How we speak. The Bible says that the power of life and death is in the power of our tongue. And so we have to be very careful how we speak to our men, because what we put out is what we get back. So if you're getting a man who's not treating you right, not doing right, it's because you're teaching him that you're not deserving of the rightness. So whatever you feel you deserve, then you need to teach him that that's what you deserve, so that he'll know how to show up properly for you. So be careful about the language that you say, but absolutely our men are deserving. One of the things I would say, as we wrap up, I always say my whole mission is that when we strengthen our boys and our men, we stabilize our girls and our women. That's how it works. We need each other. One can't do it without the other. We need each other. And so I want to advocate for families getting back together.
Yeah, I love that. And real quick, before I let you go too, how important is, maintaining a healthy mind and body and spirit in the midst of this? Because like you said, we are responsible for that. Us as mothers, especially, being the caretakers and the nurturers of our children, you must find it important that we heal ourselves as well. It starts with us, correct? Speak to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen, if you're a mom out there, or a single dad, full-time father out there, and you're, really trying to figure out how to make this work, make some time for yourself by, being sociable. Try to incorporate yourself, try to find that village. If you can't find Young Men Strong, find your village, go to a church, go to your school, go to a faith-based institution, find family members that you can rely on, but find some self-care for you, because when you're together, then you'll be able to pour into your child. And so we want to make sure that self-care is everything. Make yourself better, whatever that looks like for you. If it means going back to school, if it means getting a better job, if it means, increasing your level of, your skill set or degree certifications, whatever that looks like for you. If it means buying yourself a dress, or maybe buying yourself a watch because you haven't done anything but give and not receive. Take time out for you so that you can be able to show up for society and for your children.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. Oh, you have two, like 1 second now. We have a flyer to what you have going on. You have mentorship programs. Tell us a little about this before you go, because I think one of them you're actually headed off to in a minute.
Yes. So Young Men Strong is under the DBA of Mentors, and Mentors is an acronym for men who are offering tools, opportunities, resources, and services to our community. And
Love
Young Men Strong is a nonprofit organization, tax exempt organization, and people can support it by, it's a village of men that come together to support our younger men who are growing up in single parent households and under resourced communities. And so we're offering services like self-esteem development, anger management, conflict resolution, effective communication, emotional intelligence, and mental health services that are from certified clinicians. And so after that, we offer hands-on skills, because we believe that it starts in the mind. And once we get your mind right and your heart right, then we can get your hands right. So
Yeah.
we have hands-on skills such as and training workshops like OSHA 30, SST, CDL, construction, post-construction cleanup, driving, first aid, CPR. We have fashions, we have culinary art, financial literacy. It's really about creating a whole man so that they can show up for their girlfriends and their wives.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like I kept you here longer than I should, but this has been an amazing conversation. You need to come back, my friend. We're going to put your information up. Please follow Nijaah Howard at Young Men Strong on social media, as well as check out her website, nijaahhoward.com, and Thoughts Magazine as well. You have been a pleasure, my friend. I know you have to dash to your next workshop. Please have a wonderful evening. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. And let me just make one little small correction. It's nijaahhoward.com. It's 2 A's and 1 H. So
Okay.
nijaahhoward.com.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry I messed that up. I'll get it later.
It's okay.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. You have a wonderful evening. Okay.
Same here. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye now. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you. Well, guys, we just had an amazing guest, Nijaah Howard, who spoke so passionately about what it takes to raise a great male child in this world, and what she did to actually make sure that her son was raised with the values and the tools necessary in order for him to be a true man. So I love her, and I loved our conversation. I want to get real quick to my unity. So this past weekend, my friends, I was at the Women's Diversity Network event. It was amazing. They had speakers there that spoke to social issues that are facing many on Long Island. The young lady who started the organization, founder, is Shaniqua Levin. She realized the need for a diversity event, as she often found herself to be the only Black woman surrounded by white women, or the room would be full of Black women with no white women in sight. So what she thought was the solution was to create a platform where we could celebrate our diversity and take time to get to know one another, so we could become more comfortable with each other. She comprised many women and gender expansive people from various communities and groups who are committed to WDN's mission and goal. WDN has become a social movement organization practicing transformative justice processes based on group leaderships which marginalized lives are centered around. So when I tell you the panels were amazing, first and foremost, there was a mental health discussion. And lately I have just been feeling so passionate about the mental health issues in a lot of people's lives. We may not have realized that we were dealing with them. We were told to buck up, get over it, we'll be okay. But the reality is that we've all suffered with some form of mental illness in our lives at one time or another, whether dealing with grief, whether dealing with stress, whether dealing with just life. So I got a lot out of the workshop that they had, I shared a lot as well. I'm realizing that, I want to help my daughter and I want to help my family with any type of feelings, unhappiness or joy or any type of emptiness that they have had or felt in their lives. I want us to reveal our truth at our core. And so lately we've been doing little exercises sharing with each other our feelings and checking in on each other regularly. I really think that that is so, so very important. And the workshop that I attended actually stressed that very thing, that we need to start having these conversations with our family and with our friends. It is imperative to our mental health. It is imperative to our well-being, our body, minds, and our spirit. We also had some dancers perform. It was a diverse, cultured event. And we had this young Indian woman who did a beautiful Indian dance for everyone. And then we had this gentleman from the Shinnecock Reservation who came and he did a unity dance. So everyone got on the stage and we just literally just watched them to perform this amazing routine. And it was just truly a blessing for all to see. The event was amazing. The next day, I attended a prom dress drive from Shantae Carter. I think I did mention that to you guys. And that was awesome as well. She had so many dresses for so many people. I understand that she had a lot of young ladies show up as well. Again, we'll be having my prom dress drive this Saturday coming at Kennedy Park, the same location as Shantae's event took place. It was really, really cool. I truly enjoyed it. She does wonderful work with her organization, Women of Integrity. And that is me, Shantae, as well as my beautiful friend, Diane. And we were just there to support her. So I've been rushing through the unity in community, but I want to thank you guys for sticking around. And I want to get to the Dare to Be You really quickly. The Dare to Be You is: the greatest good you can do for another is not just share your riches, but reveal to him his own. And that is a little about what me and my beautiful friend discussed earlier. Nijaah was saying how we need to show up for our young men and women, how we need to show them that they are enough, that they are worthy. We show that to them through us, but we also have to let them know that they possess these very same gifts and that all they have to do is work towards finding them and uncovering them. We must pour into them the very goodness that we know that they deserve, the greatness that we know that they will become. We must fortify them with that information, that knowledge, that love, that wisdom, and that compassion. We must show our little young men and women that we are here for them, that we are listening, and that we want to take them to the next chapter of their lives with just all the love and all the joy that we can possess in our bodies to give them. So please go out there, be a mentor, be a person that someone else can look up to, and most importantly, be the example. I think that is more important than anything. Walk these streets as the example so that when these little kids see you, they will know what it is to be a well-rounded, healthy, mentally stable individual. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Your Our Unity. I'd like to also thank my guest again, Nijaah Howard, her amazing organization, Young Men Strong. Please check it out. I want you guys to have a wonderful week. And remember that I love you. We will see you next week here on Your Our Unity. And remember that peace and love is in the palm of our hands. So let's go out there and be some love. Give some love. Share some love. I'll see you next week on Your Our Unity. And you guys have a wonderful week. Bye.
Strong Island Entertainment.